The Vermont Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired.
For this month's How I Do It review, we're going to be comparing optical magnification, namely the Powermag versus the Magno. Powermag is a brand made by Optelec. Here we can see along the top their stand magnifiers. On the left, 3x, on the right, 4x. And below, on the left, we have the 3.5x handheld magnifier and the 4x handheld magnifier. Magno, which is made by Eschenbach, is a competitor of the Powermag. Here we have two hand magnifiers that have a adaptable slide stand addition that can turn the handheld into a stand magnifier. On the left is a 3.5x, on the right is a 4x. The advantage of a stand magnifier over a hand magnifier, or handheld magnifier, is that the focal distance is already set, and the magnifier simply needs to be set on top of an item to have it focus properly. A handheld magnifier needs to be adjusted, the distance, the focal distance between it and the target that you're looking at, to be able to find the correct focal distance. If you had tremors or if you had difficulty holding your hand steady, a stand magnifier would be optimal over a hand magnifier. However, portability allows a handheld magnifier to go lots of different places and take up a lot less space. Now, as we compare these magnifiers today, it's not really comparing apples to apples because manufacturers report the power of magnification a little bit different. On the left, the Powermag Optelec magnifier states that it's 4x or 4 times magnification, but you'll note that it says 12D next to that. That means 12 diopters. Whereas on the right, the 4x handheld Eschenbach Magno says that it's 4x as well, but it notes that it's 16 diopters. You'll note that the lens on the right is slightly smaller than the lens on the left. Both report to be 4 times magnification, but really truly the magnification between the two is not identical because you have 12 diopters on the left and 16 diopters on the right. So these will be general comparisons today, not perfect comparisons. First, we're going to compare the brightness when looking through the stand magnifiers. This is the 3x Powermag. You can see that it is very bright and very even. That was true for both the 3x and now the 4x stand magnifiers. Now we compare the 3.5x Magno handheld, which is on a stand modifier, to see how it looks through the lens. You'll note that because there is no shroud, the light does go beyond just the viewing area. And you'll note that the light is a bit brighter towards the handle itself. So in the upper right-hand corner of the viewing area, it's a bit brighter. However, the light does get to the remainder of the text well. The 4x stand magnifier likewise has similar features to the 3.5x. A little bit brighter up towards where the handle is, where the light source is coming from, but the viewing area still is very clear, and there's plenty of light. So for brightness through the lens, the Optelec has the brighter light in the viewing area as compared to the Magno. From a stand comparison though, the base of the Magno is much easier to put on a smaller area and keep steady versus the longer handled Powermag, which requires the kickstand in the back to stay stable. And so on a small book like this, if you were to set the Optelec down, you would almost need to angle it to make sure that the focal distance is correct, whereas the Magno you can set down and the focal distance will be correct, and it'll be more stable. So there's some advantages to the design of the stand modifier versus the actual stand magnifier. But as far as brightness goes, there's a lot more brightness through the viewing area when it's flat as compared to the Magno. So clarity through the lens, both of them read very well. The the Magno has a better quality lens in it than the Optelec, and it also has a greater degree of magnification because this is 16 diopters versus 12 diopters. But the lens is larger on the 4X Optelec. However, is it a true 4X? That could be argued. Now comparing the handhelds with each other, this is the 3.5x magnifier by Optelec. You need to get the right focal distance to be able to maintain your reading. You can see that the light is a bright white light emanating from the handle in the lower left-hand corner, but it does do a clear, I don't know the right term, but flooding of the viewing area. Now we have the 3.5x handheld magnifier from Magno, and likewise, it does a good job of flooding the area with the light. This is a straight handle versus an angled handle like on the Optelec, so that's not an apples to apples comparison. But you can see that the viewing area of this 3.5x is larger than the 3.5x comparison of the Optelec. So slightly larger viewing area, equal degree of magnification, and equal evenly spread light. The light that's on the Magno is slightly less intense than the light that is on the Optelec. It's a little bit less white of a light, but that could be an advantage to some clients, and to other clients they might want a brighter light. Now compare the 4X Optelec hand magnifier. Again, it's not a fixed focal distance that a stand magnifier provides, so you do have to kind of play going back and forth a little bit to get it to where you need it. The brightness is a bright white light, and the it's a good flood of the area with the light. We'll compare now the 4X Magno handheld magnifier. This is a smaller viewing area than the 4X from Optelec. However, remember it is 16 diopters as opposed to 12. A general rule of thumb is that you divide by 4 to determine the power of magnification with diopters. And so if this is 16 diopters, that is a true 4X magnifier. Whereas with the other one, 12 diopters would be closer to a 3. So again, manufacturers say the power of magnification in different ways. I'm not arguing with them whether or not it's a 3 or a 4X, but this is a smaller viewing area because it is a greater degree of magnification. The light does shine well across the viewing area. No complaints there. And so there you have the 4X Magno. Now, earlier I noted that the Powermag appeared to have more light contained within the viewing area of a stand magnifier as opposed to the Magno on a stand adapter. However, the distributor told me that the Magno has an adapter inside the battery compartment that will cause the energy to be sustained over a longer period of time. So in other words, this might be brighter now, but over a longer period of time you might get better performance out of the light on the left from the Magno. We're going to test that theory, and the next slide you're going to see is going to be the time that we start this test, and I will leave them going continually, and we'll see and check in to see how bright they are after many hours. The time is 11:20 a.m. as we start this demonstration. All right, it's the next morning now, and as you can see, both still are illuminated. However, when you look in at the Powermag, the center is brighter than the edges. It's dimmed around the outside, and as you look at the Magno, it is still bright and intense. So I guess that was an accurate claim from the distributor. And just to illustrate, we put new batteries into the Powermag, and it definitely became significantly brighter after installing the new batteries. So I've had 3 people all confirm that the Powermag is much brighter with new batteries. The Magno had no change. It was as equally bright as always. So closing thoughts on this. This is not really an apples to apples comparison like we talked about. These are 2 different systems that both serve purposes that will be client dependent. As far as prices go, there's not a huge cost difference with the handhelds between the Powermags and the Magnos. I'll hold off saying the price because prices change over time, and this is a YouTube video which will last forever. But the price point between a handheld Magno and a Powermag handheld is not that big of a difference. However, the stand magnifiers are much more expensive with the Powermags as compared to the handhelds, and the stand option would be less expensive than getting a stand magnifier. So for someone that might need both and is okay with a more of a yellow light, this could be a great cost-effective savings to have a stand as well as a hand magnifier when needed, rather than having to purchase both separately. For portability and stability, this is a good option. But if you need that brighter light, then I would steer someone towards the Powermag, keeping in mind that the light will not be sustained over a long period of time. And that's just something to be aware of. It's client specific. What the client needs is what we do. And as teachers, we provide options and let the clients make decisions. So that is the review of the Magno and Powermag systems and how they compare to each other. And that's how I do it. If you or a loved one needs assistance coping with vision loss, contact the Vermont Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired at 802-863-1358. Or to learn more, go to our website, www.vabvi.org.